As I mentioned, this past week, Lindy Ruff finalized his coaching staff for the upcoming 2024-2025 NHL season, and there's some interesting things to talk about. So we'll start with the big news. So last week we talked a little bit about the Rochester Americans. Their playoff run came to a fairly quick end, quicker than would have wanted to be anticipated, given where they were and by the end of the regular season. But as soon as the season ended, talks shifted to possibly seeing Seth Appert move to a higher coaching position with the Sabres. This is something that's been theorized going back a month when he was even seemingly a candidate for the head coaching position for the Sabres, which obviously didn't end up happening. But Seth Appert gets the promotion to Buffalo Sabres assistant coach.
From the conversations that took place throughout the season, obviously, if you're a head coach of another team and your team is still alive, um, Appert addressed those questions of like, could you consider yourself being on the Sabres staff next season and all that? And he obviously like shut it down, in the classic coach fashion, just going, um, I'm worried about the team we have here and the job that needs to be done now. But if you asked me before they put Appert on the staff if I would have seen him up this season, I would have told you I wouldn't have seen it. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a welcome surprise in my eyes. I don't know what you guys expected, if you expected it or not. I think it's well earned.
I think after he was basically the interim head coach for those 2 games where Donnie was sick, that I wasn't expecting it, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it did happen. Because I mean, they could have easily just put Matt Ellis or any of the other assistants just as the head coach for that game, but instead they made the effort to call their head coach from down the thruway, an hour and a half away, for him to come coach 2 NHL games or one NHL game. So I think it does make sense. I think writing was on the wall. And, we've mentioned that this is assuming Lindy doesn't stay on for too long. I think Seth Appert's the easy choice for the next head coach.
I think as soon as we started hearing his name for head coach, I guess looking back on it, it should have been obvious that something was coming no matter what. I feel like there was way too much smoke going on at once shortly before Lindy was hired, where you could just kind of dismiss it as just nothing whispers. But yeah, here we are. Seth Appert, assistant coach. So I think it's a good move. I think it's well earned. He's made his way up through the Sabres system. He's done great work with the Rochester Americans. Have his teams been perfectly structured? No. Have they had perfect seasons? No. But he was tasked with developing the key youthful players that you're seeing emerge with the current Sabres core. Jack Quinn, J.J. Peterka, Matthias Samuelsson, Yuri Kulik, Isaac Roseanne, all those guys. He was basically like that was his main job. The playoff stuff, that's all gravy. I know some Rochester fans might not like to hear that, but it's sort of the truth. It's at the very least it's a developmental team, and especially given the way their roster construction has been, where if you look in the AHL playoffs, a lot of these teams still in it. They're older teams with fringe NHL, AHL guys who have been established, where the Rochester Americans, they put their young guys in key roles. And for the 2 playoff runs that took them deep under Appert's tenure, those were the guys that took them far. It was J.J. Peterka back in 2022, and then it was Yuri Kulik back in 2023. It was mostly what he set out to do, what he was tasked to set out to do, he accomplished. So if you look at his resume with the team, I mean, hey, he basically passes with flying colors in that regard. And a lot of what he succeeded with was the Amherst were always a high-flying offense and pretty good special teams team. With this promotion, he is now the guy that is going to be working with the forwards and with the power play.
God help the power play.
I think he's at the very least, it's not going to be any worse than it was a year ago.
Don't you dare say that because you're gonna jinx it. Don't you dare say that. It could always get worse.
It
Have you
would
been a
be
fan of this team for the past 10 years? It could always get worse,
it would
Jonah.
be really hard to have a worse power play than we had.
Could always
Not
be
unattainable because
worse.
they didn't finish in last. So
They did
I
not.
I understand percentage wise it can get worse, but the way it looked, it would be very hard to get worse with the talent that we have.
Who was
But
last?
I
Oh,
don't even
geez.
know. It wasn't San Jose. San Jose was like top 15, weirdly
That's
enough.
crazy. Sorry, JP, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I was just gonna say he did talk about the power play a little in his press conference, and it was some encouraging stuff. It wasn't just, oh, we need to work harder.
All those power play quotes. Oh my God, I could gush about them. They were so good. They were so good. Lindy was talking about movement, talking about the bumper. Oh, for
Yeah, it
anybody,
wasn't
for
just
anybody, for anybody
Yeah.
that's been following us. Oh my God, that it's been a long time coming.
It was
It
almost
feels
too much for
it,
Jonah to handle.
it feels good to win one. It just feels good. No, but it's all very encouraging stuff from what we've heard. Um, Obviously, the big shift is, well, I guess we can talk about the rest of the staff. So Appert alongside Amir Gulati, who is going to be the new video coordinator. Aside from those two, everybody else is staying. Marty Wilford still probably going to be the defensive and PK coach. Mike Bales obviously still going to be the goaltending coach after the magic he pulled off this year.
And those are both fine. Those are fine.
And then Matt Ellis. Matt Ellis will still be sticking around, but with Seth Appert taking the power play and forwards role, that means Matt Ellis will be getting a new spot, and that new spot is going to be up high in the press box, being more of an eye in the sky type coach and kind of working more with the developmental side of things, which I believe is what he started out doing. And
Hmm.
something else we can talk about is Dan Girardi is not going to be continuing with the Sabres on that side of things. So I think Ellis just kind of slides into that developmental role.
Yeah, so everyone freaking out about Matt Ellis sticking around. How did Matt Ellis keep his job through all this? Are you kidding me? This is not everyone freaking out. Take a deep breath because he's not going to be behind the bench next year. You won't see him behind the bench.
I think what's funny is that going into last year, it really wasn't. It's just funny how things just switch on a dime. Like I think some people would even forget that Matt Ellis was a coach going into last season, and by the end of it, he's like, you know, got mobs in the streets, rioting, looting, you name it.
Scapegoats, man. So it's just when a team underperforms, a fan base, they will nitpick through everything to find what they think the problem is. And you know what? It was a pretty easy breadcrumb trail. I mean, you had a bad power play. They were like, okay, the players aren't executing, so what could we go to? The coaching staff. Who runs the power play? Oh, Matt Ellis runs the power play. Let's get on his you know what. And, by
Start
the end of the season, man, they're savages.
start criticizing his NHL career.
Yeah.
Just going full after this. This guy was a nobody. Why is he coaching the power play? It's like, dude,
It's like that's not how that works,
look at
buddy.
any other assistant coaching staff. You won't know any of them.
No, no, but like usually some of the best coaches were like very subpar players in the league.
Scotty Bowman never played in the NHL.
Right, yeah. Or
Greatest
like
coach of all time.
Wayne Gretzky, greatest player of all time. Terrible hockey coach. He wasn't good. He was very below average. I mean, he had like one good year with the Coyotes, and then it was awful. So it's like you can't really make that comparison across how a player played on the ice with how they could coach a team. That type of comparison it's not correct.
We did this with our power play coach before him, didn't we? With Kruger.
Yeah, who was running the power play for that team?
I remember we hated him too, and we were like, "How is this guy still have a job? Our power play and penalty kill sucks."
I forget. Was that
I
the
want
same
to
one?
throw out a
Was that the
name, but I
same
don't
one?
want to be wrong.
Was that the same one that hated Skinner?
I don't know. I'll throw out a name. I might be wrong though. Was it Steve Smith?
Steve Smith ran the defense, I think.
I don't know, but I remember there was a power play coach, and we didn't like him a few years ago either.
No, a lot of people didn't like Steve Smith because I do remember that name because he was the guy. He played for the Oilers in the '80s and he scored on his own net in the Stanley Cup final.
And then we hired him as coach.
Yeah. What is with
No,
us in hiring ex-Oilers players and coaches?
no wonder we couldn't get to the playoffs. Guy scores on his own net in the playoffs.
So
But
the Sabres have their coaching staff locked in. Lindy Ruff is head coach, Seth Appert as your forwards and power play coach, Mike Bales as your goalie coach, Matt Ellis as a development coach, and Marty Wilford as your defense and penalty killing coach. The last thing we probably should bring up here is it's a bit unprecedented to have. I mean, you could almost say Lindy Ruff had zero. I don't want to say input, but he didn't bring any of his own guys with him. I think no matter who the next head coach was, Appert was probably going to be a part of this staff, or Adams was going to put in the good word for him. So I can see why maybe some people would be a little, I guess, underwhelmed to not see any outside voices being brought in.
yeah, it's understandable. But I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't think any of us are really surprised. We kind of all said that this probably will happen, that it might have been one of the reasons why Lindy was brought in because he wouldn't have minded who his assistants were, I guess, or he would have been fine with whoever. So I guess we'll see how it develops. I mean, maybe next year it's different, but it is definitely something to point out. I don't think you ever see coaches who come from other teams who don't have someone who's from their, own line.
But let me pitch you a scenario. So I hope this doesn't happen, but let's say they have another bad season next year and they're already calling for like some sort of coaching shakeup. Do you like put Appert in after that? Because the obvious you could see it. Like they brought Lindy Ruff in 2 years. After that, Appert's going to take over. That's probably what they wanted to do. But if they have a bad season, do they throw Appert in, or do they just shake it up completely again?
Probably because what the hell else are you going to do?
I feel like if there's a scenario where if he somehow gets fired in his first season, first of all, what the hell's going on?
Oh my God, dude!
Second of all,
I couldn't handle that.
I feel like if it gets to that point, I mean, Adams, is he going to go with him?
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah.
Like if it's that bad that soon, you would have to think that it's a total. I don't even know. I don't even want to know what Terry Pegula would do in that situation. I don't want to know.
If sell the team, that that would be so bad on so many levels because not only are you probably going into another sort of like retool slash rebuild type of area, but now you're messing with the past. Like you ruin a longtime alumna of the Buffalo Sabres, someone who coached this team through some of the best games in history, and now you feel like you just used them and cast them aside like a used napkin. Like so let's hope that that doesn't happen in the first season.
Yeah, that wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, let's hope you didn't just speak this into existence, you
Guys,
idiot.
Picture this: the Sabres have the most nightmarish scenario imaginable. What do they do?
Picture this. It only gets worse.
I told you it could always get worse.
All right, so that's Lindy Ruff's staff. Obviously, the big news: Seth Appert, new power play and forward coach. That's going to be exciting. We're going to see where that goes. Lindy Ruff talked about how he was already in because he even stated himself, I think it was on Sabres Live, that he really didn't know who Seth Appert was before even being hired, but with the conversations they had, it seemed like he had a good first impression, and should be fun to continue into the season, and we'll see where Seth Appert's career kind of goes down the road. See if he's the next man up.
I'm sorry, that just sounds so dumb. Yeah, I didn't even know who this guy was. Now he's my assistant coach. Yeah, I don't know. I was just told he's gonna be the guy.
Sounds like a Sabres type of situation, like their head coach calling people, cold calling their fans about renewing
Oh,
season
I
tickets.
saw that. For anybody who doesn't know, there was a Reddit post that I don't go on Sabres Reddit that much for obvious reasons.
That's a dangerous place.
Reddit itself is a dangerous place.
I just so happened to log on, and that was the first post that popped up. I guess Lindy Ruff was someone claimed that Lindy Ruff called his dad about renewing season tickets. So
Pretty cool though. That is cool.
you got him in. That's pretty cool.
It's cool, but why is the head coach calling fans?
Yeah, I want
About-
Terry to call me.
Imagine he's got like a brochure in front of him. He's got his readers on. He can barely see
We
the
here
paper.
at
He's
the
like,
Buffalo Sabres
Read from the
treasure your-
script.
it's like we have a quarter season ticket deal going on. And what is this number, Mary? What do you
$22.
got? Oh, $22.
Oh, right, because that's me. Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God.
We here at the Buffalo Sabres, we value your time and your money very much. We would be pleased if you would join us for another season.
And
I'd renew.
we're making improvements to the arena. Here's a picture of our roof. They just released that. That's big news.
No more
Can't even-
leaks.
Can't even tell what really happened. Like there's just white on the roof.
First thing Christian sends to our group chat is like a guy falling through the roof of a convenience store.